And ladies and gentlemen, my name is Natalia Baeva, and on behalf of Adam Smith Conferences, I would like to welcome you all here at the International Conference Private Investor Middle East. Today we will discuss topics on Arab women in business and on succession planning, and tomorrow we will have the main conference day. It's a pleasure to have you all here, and we hope that you will enjoy time here with us. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank the sponsors of this event, Chitkuti Kauchi and Krisa Finis and Polivio. Both companies have helped to make this event possible, so we would just like to say many thanks to them all. Now, we would like to make a few quick housekeeping announcements. First of all, I would like to remind you about keeping your mobile phones switched to silent regime while you are here in the conference room. Also, I'm obliged to draw your attention to the fire and emergency proceedings here at the Montcalm Hotel. If you hear the evacuation signal, please leave the room immediately. Also, please wear your badges at all times throughout the conference so that fellow delegates and conference staff could identify you easily. You will also need your badges to gain access to the lunch and evening reception, so please make sure that you don't take them off or lose them. One-to-one meetings will take place today and tomorrow, and so if you want to meet with private bankers and family offices and you have not signed up yet for those meetings, please ask about the availability. My colleagues at the registration desk. If you have any questions, please let me or my colleagues know, and we will be more than happy to help you. Also, I would like now to introduce the moderator of the first session. It's roundtable on the topic Arab Women in Business Challenges and Opportunities, Ishreen Bradley, Director, Equality Pioneers.
Thank you, Natalia. Good morning, everybody. In fact, good afternoon, I believe. It's my pleasure to be hosting this session. We have an amazing panel of entrepreneurs with us who have been in business. Some are just starting up. Some have been working for many years. We shan't say how long, right? My passion about this is that we need now to start thinking beyond gender and beyond race, and we need to start thinking about inclusion of people of difference, of all difference. And clearly, women being the biggest minority sector, it's essential that we start there. So, as I said, we've got a great panel here with us today. I'm going to introduce them in a moment, but first I want to say we're all here also to network, right? We're all here to get to know each other and support each other. So I'd like this, as well as the panel talking, I'm going to be interacting with you from time to time, and I would like you to engage and see how you can support the panelists and how we might be able to support you. Would that be all right? Is that okay? Great, thank you. Thank you. So let me start by introducing Dr. Huda Al-Halesi. Forgive me, ladies, if my pronunciation isn't exactly right. But Dr. Huda is a very inspiring woman. She's not only an entrepreneur, she's also risen to very senior levels in the education sector in Saudi Arabia, and she's currently on the Shura Council, which is quite an accomplishment. That's the parliament equivalent in Saudi Arabia. So we're going to get a lot of wisdom from her, I'm sure, and she's very modest, so she's going no like this, right? Next to Dr. Huda is Hanan Katan. Yes. Hanan has been an entrepreneur for many years. She started with a cosmetics business, and now she's producing films, and also has opened a restaurant in Soho that I'm sure we'll all want to visit soon. Welcome, Hanan.
Thank you.
Thank you. And over the chasm, so to speak, we have Maya Ahmed. Maya has been in pharmaceuticals for over 15 years, and I first met Maya when she was leading the pharmaceutical department in St Mary's Hospital, and she's now developed from there to have her own business. She supports a number of different charities, and she's a director of a charity that's making a difference to street kids in Morocco as well. So Maya, thank you for being with us. Welcome. And next to Maya is Sonia, Dr. Sonia Bataille, who's an international coach and mentor, also from Morocco, right? Yes, so Dr. Sonia has worked as a coach and mentor around the world, and she'll be sharing with us some of her experiences of working and supporting women and men, I guess, right? And finally, Dr. Najat. Dr. Najat, forgive me, I'm not going to try pronounce your surname.
Don't try.
And Dr. Najat's the founder and director of Gazelle Advisory Group, and they probably very in tune with the kind of work that many of you do in the area of investments in properties and family offices and so forth. So that's our panel. I'd like to give you each an opportunity now to introduce yourselves, really looking from what inspired you to start your business? And let's start there. What inspired you to start your business?
Good morning or good afternoon, first of all. I just want to make a little correction. I'm not a doctor, so just Huda's fine.
Oh, I apologize. That's what I was given in the...
I know, everybody... I was with King Saud University, which is the oldest university in Saudi Arabia, for about 24 years. And I was the head of the translation, the College of Translation and Languages for 14 years. And I took early retirement when my father became very sick, which was, I think, a very good thing, although it didn't show at the time. And I joined the Shura Council in 2013, and this is my second term. Each term is a mandate of 4 years, so I'm in my 5th year right now. At the same time, I saw that there was a huge need in Saudi Arabia, not just in Riyadh, where I live, for good translation. So I got together with a couple of colleagues, and we opened Babel for translation, which does more than just translation. We have different departments, one of which obviously is a translation department. We are very selective with the people that we work with. Our translators are all top quality translators, so we translate English, Arabic, English and French as well. With regards to the other services that we have something called the personal interpretation service, which means that any client that comes to Saudi Arabia and that needs more than just the business side, where they come and they need to know more about Saudi Arabia, they have meetings, they want to take a tour, they have leisure time. So we offer an airport-to-airport service where we provide everything from booking a hotel room to booking flights to showing non-Saudis around the country, because I think we have a lot to offer, and Saudi Arabia is a very misunderstood country. Stereotypes are rampant, as we all know. The media is doing a wonderful job looking for scapegoats, and I think that we want to change that a little bit. So that's...
What a great inspiration. Thank you. Hanan?
So I'm Palestinian. I live here. I've been living in London for 35 years. My mother's from Jerusalem, my father's from Bethlehem. And as all Palestinians in diaspora, I think entrepreneurship is in our blood, and education, and
Yes.
trying to do something more. But my inspiration came from my grandfather growing up. He was a wonderful entrepreneur and industrialist and philanthropist. He helped a lot of Palestinians after each war, establishing them and giving them the opportunity to start from scratch. So that influenced me a lot. While my father thought women should get married and have children, my grandfather always encouraged me to go into business. So I started...
Usually one generation back that really champions us,
yes,
isn't it?
it's amazing, yeah. So I started, the first and only job I had was for the family business for 2 years. I ran L'Oreal for them in Jordan, and did really well, but I didn't want to be confined, so London was always second home for my family. And I came here, I started representing other people's brands, and then developed my own hair care range that sold, and Bath and Body that sold to all the multiples, Boots, Tesco, and all the Sainsbury's, and did really, really well. Then we exited. Then after almost 20 years in branding, manufacturing, distribution, and so on, I went into film production with my partner, so producing feature films that are all about female protagonists, female empowerment, political backdrops, and so on. So not very easy to do, but we did it and did well.
Are they all in English or
English,
Arabic?
all English, all English.
Fabulous.
And they all did well. They had awards and did really exceptionally well. And then I just started a year ago Taboon Kitchen in Soho, which is the only Palestinian restaurant in Soho, with a view to scale it and replicate it and to build a brand. So the common thread is always building IP, something original and unique, and something that can grow and scale, and always with a view, with a passion for what I believe in. So it's very much about sharing the Palestinian culture through food to British and Europeans in the heart of London.
Beautiful. And in the centre of the film industry
in
as well,
Soho.
right?
And that's why we chose Soho. It's very creative,
Yes.
and also people are open to different types of cuisine. We're surrounded with 6 Israeli restaurants, so we're the only ones there. But yes, so that was the plan.
And the name of the restaurant is?
Taboon Kitchen. So
Taboon.
T-A-B-U-N. So Taboon is in Arab, in Palestinian, it's Palestinian bread and the oven. So my grandfather's house in Bethlehem had a Taboon oven where we had bread baked freshly every day. So I wanted Jerusalem home cooking from my mother's family recipes to my father and grandfather's Taboon. So it's a confluence.
And which road is it on?
We're on Berwick Street.
Berwick Street. So everybody, Berwick Street, okay?
Yeah.
Taboon Kitchen.
Thank you.
Enjoy the food.
Thank
there.
you.
Thank you, Anand. So let's go over. Let's start with Maya.
Okay. Hi everyone, my name is Maya. I was born in the UK and my parents are from Egypt originally. So I qualified as a pharmacist nearly 15 years ago now. So I've been working in clinical pharmacy in hospitals around London. And I'm a pediatric specialist. That's the area of speciality that I've got into. And I set up a charity working with Moroccan street children almost 10 years ago now. So we work with partner organisations in the north of Morocco where we support organisations that work with street children and former street children as well. And recently, about a year and a half ago, I've just set up my own pharmacy consultancy company where we work with the pharmacists around the world in education and training and also consultancy. So it's quite a new company. I did a pilot project in Ethiopia earlier this year, which went really well. And we're just bidding for contracts at the moment in the UAE and in Qatar as well. What inspired me to set up the charity is just really like spending time in Morocco and just actually like meeting children on the streets, having conversation with them, and just really being involved in the plight and what they were actually dealing with. And what inspired me to set up the company and consultancy is just my like passion for international development. And also I did some work with some Kenyan pharmacists about 6-7 years ago, where we did some teaching projects with them. And so that really inspired me just to continue that work. And also just concentrating on the GCC countries where they are really committed to developing their healthcare systems. They are really looking into health tourism out there. And I've like previously worked at the Harley Street Clinic and the Cromwell Hospital, where we get a lot of clients from the UAE and from Qatar. But like now they're really trying to focus on like building up their own healthcare systems from there. So that's
Thank you, Maya. Thank you. Sonia.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I wish the reason for setting up my own business was as selfless as Maya's. I think mine really stemmed from a need of freedom, freedom of doing what I felt was right, freedom of doing what I felt was right by me, by my stakeholders. Those include my clients, my community. Now I'm starting to think more in terms of how I can impact my environment. So I can definitely feel like I am slowly developing into a more selfless person. But I think overall it's been a a need of freedom, really. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a great reason, right? Many women enter into entrepreneurship to be able to create their lives the way they want it, juggling family and work and other pressures.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, thank you. Welcome. And finally, but not least, Dr. Najat.
Firstly, good afternoon, and thank you so much, Ishreen, for moderating the panel. My name is Najat Bensheba Savenya. It's a bit of a mouthful. I was born in the UK to Moroccan parents. I have sort of a two-track career, really. One in a geeky academic sense. I have multiple degrees, including a PhD in Arabic linguistics, as well as a consulting track, having worked in consulting firms in Europe and Asia. I've lived in different countries, one of which was Saudi quite a few years ago, and since then I've developed quite deep-seated working relationships with family offices across the Gulf region. So I decided sort of spring of this year to launch Gazelle Advisory Group, where we work mainly with Arab family offices, sovereign wealth funds, institutions in the Gulf region and beyond, and introducing them to investments in Europe and North America. I work with a business partner and a team of two, one in London, one in Dublin, and we are seeking really to establish ourselves in the world of Arab family offices, given our expertise in this field.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
So, ladies and everybody, about 7 years ago, working with my clients, I came to see that women were still struggling with the same kind of challenges that I had been struggling with 30 years prior when I was employed. And so it inspired me to do some research. You know, there's one thing to have opinions, and there's another thing to have founded research. And so we interviewed over 1,000 women who were in the corporate world, and we asked them what are the challenges they face and how have they overcome those challenges. And interestingly, the top 3 challenges were managing their impact and profile, having a plan for their future, and a sense of what they're worth in the market, a sense of their self-worth. So let me ask everybody, we're going to just do a hands up here, right? So who has a great plan, or who has a sense of where they're going with their career or their business? Who already has a plan for their future? A few people, right? Not many. So that's something that you do. We know that. So it's really important to have that, okay? And there are many people here. If you don't have that and you're looking for some support, there are many people here who can support you with that. I'd be happy to have a conversation. Who has a sense of their value in the market and knows they're getting paid what they're worth, or earning what they're worth in their business? Yeah. And not many, right? Unless you're just being shy, there's not many people achieving these things, and these are the keys to success. And who believes they know and have the skills to have the impact they want to make with their clients or with their colleagues? That's a bit better, right? Bit more work being done on that. Very good. So what I'd like to do now is ask our panel, our roundtable guests, do any of those challenges resonate with you? Or if not, what does? And how have you overcome the biggest challenge you faced in business? So anybody, just speak when you're ready.
I mean, I can... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No. I think it starts with really having a belief in yourself and what you want to do. There are always challenges, starting your own business and being a startup and growing any brand, any company. But I think the hardest is believing in yourself, and then having the support of people who believe in you, whether friends, family, to really support you and to empower you to go to the next level. I think that's quite important. Being a woman in business is probably doubly difficult, but you have to overcome that. You can't have it as an obstacle. You have to focus on what you really believe in and making it happen. I think the difference, I've never been employed in a company, so I can't answer that question. I think it's very challenging having your own business, because it's not like you have a paycheck guaranteed by a company, an employer. So it's slightly different. So maybe I'm not the best person to talk about that.
Sure, but the same challenges apply from what I hear. So it's really having a sense of your own self-worth and
Very
a
much so.
focus, and then having, actually I call it a virtual board, having your own virtual board, like a network of people who you know will support you no matter what.
Correct.
Yeah? Thank you. Yes.
I think networking is very important, but with regards to Saudi Arabia, and this is the environment I live in now, I grew up in London and I went to school and university here, so I do see the difference. I think that the challenges for women is that even though they do know their self-worth, and I think that Saudi women are very, very strong, a lot stronger than a lot of the media make them out to be. They're strong, they're innovative, they're creative, and they're very focused on what they want to do. The problem is not so much in the self as in the outside. There are a lot of challenges with regard to Saudi society, with regard to the makeup of the society, how difficult and how many obstacles that they have to face before reaching the goals that they have to reach. So it is working with people, men specifically, and I have been lucky, a lot of the people in my entourage have been lucky to have worked with the support of men, whether it is a family member or a colleague. Men play a very important role in the advancement and the empowerment of women. So our challenges really lie on the outside rather than the inside. And I think that is extremely challenging to be able to succeed in a society that still sees the place or the role of women in the house, with the children. In that sense, yes, there is a lot of challenges, but once they reach the stage where they can prove themselves, the respect is incredible.
It's immense.
It's
isn't
immense.
It?
So
It's immense.
it is teaching not just women to be empowered, but teaching men to help women and understand that we are working hands together rather than separately to become a better society and a better country. And I think that is the biggest challenge.
It's beautifully said. Beautifully said. So let me ask the women in the audience, do you have a male stakeholder, a dad or a granddad or a cousin or a friend who supported you in getting to where you are? Yeah, that proves your point. Right?
Yeah.
Proves your point. And let me ask the men here, are you fathers? Who's a father? Who's a father? So do you see like opportunities for your female children, for your daughters? Do you think bigger for your daughters than you do for your did for your wives or partners? Or do you all have really successful female partners as well? Yeah. My observation is there are many men who are enlightened and who really do want to support the best talent, whether it's man or woman, in being successful. But for the men who are not enlightened, as I say, it's when they have their daughters and they start thinking about their daughters' careers that they engage. Has that been your observation?
I think that we need to, whether we're in Europe, in the States, in the Middle East, I think that we need to head towards a genderless society where we do not make an issue of whether you're a female or a male, but what is it that you can bring to the table? What is it that you can bring to society? What is it that you can do to improve on your lifestyle, the lifestyles of those around you? I think that we really need to focus more on who has the qualities to be able to do X, Y, Z, rather than, oh no, she can't do it because she's a woman, he can do it because he's a man. No, I think that we are individuals. We all have something to offer, and we need to reach the stage where our societies become genderless.
Absolutely. No gender bias.
I mean, I have a bit of a comment as regard to that, because as a Moroccan woman born in France, I've had both culture, and I want to be a woman. I don't want a genderless society. I don't want to be a man. I am not interested in becoming a man in any ways. So I think nurturing the feminine quality, whether they exist in men or women, nurturing the masculine quality, whether they is quite important. I think, yes, we have to go beyond gender society where we focus on what it is to be a man and a woman, but let's not forget. I think it's important to nurture that and nourish that.
I think
there's a misunderstanding. I do not at all say do not remain a woman, be a woman, but have the same opportunities.
Yes, absolutely. And I find it actually easier to be a woman in the Middle East, having lived in the Middle East for 8 years, I find it easier to be a woman in the Middle East because I feel like my sensitivity is accepted there. Here, there are still a lot of belief that a woman in business should behave a little bit like a man, and if she's a little bit sensitive or shows her feminine side, it's not really appreciated, or it feels a little bit awkward. So I'm still debating over the role of women in society, whether I think it should be embraced. I mean, I'm sure you agree as well,
Sure,
but
Sonia.
I think in terms of challenges, unconscious bias is what we should really look towards unveiling. We all have some assumption about what a woman is and what a man is. I think uncovering what those are will help us transcend them and moving beyond them.
Sure. Sonia, I think that's valid, and I think that's complementary to what Huda
Yes.
said, because Huda's basically saying when you evaluate a woman or a man for a role, don't think about whether they're a man or a woman, think about do they have the right skills to do the job, and are they the best person for the job, irrespective of whether they're a man or a woman. And I think what you say is equally valid, which is actually if you think about the qualities that stereotypically women bring to a job, those are complementary skills that can be very useful in a working environment. Does that kind of capture what you said?
Yeah, I wouldn't say complementary. I would say more core or vital skills. And if we're looking at the evolution of business, I think that quality of empathy, quality
Yes.
of collaboration,
Yeah.
things are where things are moving forward. So I don't see them as complementary, but more having like a principal role.
Okay, that's fine. And Najat, the biggest challenge you've faced in business?
Yes, I think challenge comes in step 2 of the journey of becoming an entrepreneur in my experience. I mean, the first step is to have the vision. To have the vision to become an entrepreneur is sort of innate, I think, within any sort of budding entrepreneur. So once you have the vision, that's, you're halfway there really, be it disruptive, be it, something out of the ordinary. The challenges come in step 2 in terms of funding. Women notoriously find it so much more difficult to secure funding than men, and that is a statistic that is known the world over, not only in the Middle East, which is where I operate, but globally. So perhaps we can address the funding issue that women notoriously have to face. And also in terms of challenges to do with making sure you have the right team with you, as you start your journey. Also looking at the legalities. Do you have a law firm working with you? Have you thought about tax, compliance, governance? These are all elements that perhaps your average entrepreneur doesn't think about. Are you giving up too much equity, in the first round of funding? So seeking professional advice from professionals is absolutely intrinsic, and that is the first major hurdle that I would say entrepreneurs face in the modern world. I mean, as Arabs, we have been entrepreneurs for centuries, but in the modern sense, we're still quite nascent, actually. If you look at the Careem, Fetcher, what else is launched? Souk.com that was sold to Amazon recently. These are all sort of in their infancy. So in the Western sense, entrepreneurship is just coming to the Middle East and North Africa. But traditionally, we've been entrepreneurs for centuries. So I think challenges come once the vision's been established, irrespective of gender. I see business as asexual anyway. So yeah, the challenges must be met, through professional services.
Lovely, thank you. And Maya?
Yeah. I guess for me, there has been a couple of challenges. So one of them is, I think, just actually having grown up in the UK, I'm just like so used to British culture, how like things work in the UK. So the challenges that I've found actually going into the Middle East are, I mean, obviously I know my parents' culture, but I haven't lived it. So I think there's just, when I'm out there, I really have to be quite patient sometimes. And also just in terms of just communication. So in the UK, I'm so used to people replying quite quickly to emails, just picking up the phone and having a conversation. I could send an email and I'd get a response 2 or 3 weeks later, and they really work face to face out there, and that's something that I've really found out in the last few months. And I think when I'm actually out there in the region, it's like so much easier to get things done. But I think that's also one of the challenges for me, is actually it being in the UK and having to keep flying out there, not being able to just have conversations quite easily. In terms of what inspired me, I think just actually like being like passionate about the bigger cause of things in my business and also in the charity. And I think actually getting people to believe in something that you believe in is so much easier when you're really passionate about it, and you know you really have that, like rather than just having like a business for the sake of having a business, but just for the bigger cause, like the why, like why are you actually doing this business. So yeah, that's really helped me.
Thank you. That's a real key tip, isn't it, for working in the Middle East? It's essential to have face-to-face time because relationships and trust are so important. Yeah. Good. So I'm going to pick up now on the point that Najat made, actually, about having professional advice and support. So there's a group I work with in Parliament called the All-Party Parliamentary Group for Entrepreneurship and Enterprise. And I look after the mainstream for them. And they've identified 4 areas that they say would make the biggest difference for women being successful in the UK. And I'm interested how well that translates to entrepreneurship in the Middle East and so forth. So the 4 areas are access to training, so skills development, and knowledge development in terms of what they need to have in place to be successful, access to finance, which is, I think, what Najat was talking about, access to markets, so being able to get to the clients effectively, and access to research and information. So if we were to say those are the 4 kind of general areas that we're looking at, which would you say would be most useful for you in your business?
I mean, for me, access to finance, definitely, because to grow and scale a business, you need, you start with a financial model, and you need to be able to have the funding to cash flow, the rollout, and the growth. So I think that's probably a challenge for most startups and small businesses that want to go to the next level and the next level. Yeah. I found that a lot of lenders and investors and VCs and so on, you need to be at a certain level before they even look at you, especially if you're a startup. Having said that, I think you start off with people who believe in you and trust in you and who are already established in their own businesses. That facilitates and enables you to go to the next level, and it opens up more doors as you progress. But as a pure startup with just an idea and a vision, I think capital is probably very important.
Capital is really important,
for me, anyway.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
There's, it's interesting you say that, Hannah, because one of the things that's coming out in our research for this all-party parliamentary group is that women are more reluctant to ask for funding or to give away a part of their business or to take loans. They want to grow organically. Have you observed that? Do you experience that? In fact, the whole panel, do any of you experience that when it comes to access to finance, women tend to be more reluctant to seek funding?
Well, you can't really grow without funding, so you need to. It's not about being a woman or a man. I think if you have a business plan and you want to scale it and grow it, you have to seek funding. It's just, as Dr. Najat said, it's the right equity ratio that you want to give away, especially at an early startup stage. You end up giving a bit more equity than you want to. But I think it's very important to work with the right advisors and team of people to make sure you don't give up too much equity, and you work with the right accountants and lawyers and advisors to make sure that they buy into your vision and to structure it in a way that you can grow it and still be excited as an entrepreneur to want to grow your business. Otherwise,
that's right.
You lose interest.
That's right. And to be able to keep that autonomy, which is why you're an entrepreneur in the first place, right? And not feel like you're being managed. Anyone else on access to finance? Any thoughts on why that's important, how you see entrepreneurs going about that?
In Saudi Arabia, with the new Vision 2030 right now, the government understood that the most important aspect of difficulty and obstacles is the financing for entrepreneurs, and has set up a whole gamut of financing for small businesses, which has helped a lot of groups, a lot of young people to start off their own businesses. And I think it came at a very right time, because we are a country where 65% of the population is under the age of 30, and they all have aspirations to become the next whatever. And I think this funding is extremely important for them. Obviously, there are the private entities that do help out also. I found that the most difficult aspect of setting up a business is the bureaucracy, is government bureaucracy that really can kill so many very good ideas, so that your vision needs to be readapted to adapt with the government's visions. And if you don't persevere, you can give up very easily. But I think perseverance will get you where, I mean, it took me nearly 3 years to set up my business on a legal side, which is unheard of, say, in the Emirates, unheard of here. So that is the biggest challenge for us. Financing, yes, is a problem, but I think the government understood and starts to help out. The private corporations also help out, but bureaucracy is a killer.
It is, isn't it? 3 years. Most people couldn't afford to wait out that long, right?
We were lucky because the business, I mean, you can even work from home,
Yes.
but you do want to have something that is official.
Exactly.
So just getting all that done was difficult. It's changing, so we're
Yes.
keeping our fingers crossed.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I think just a comment on finance, but it's the single most important element when becoming an entrepreneur or starting this journey. There's lots of sort of navigation that must take place. For most, it's uncharted territories. There's lots of government grants across the world. There are lots of loans available, but one must really read the small print. There's lots of red tape involved. High interest rates are for these small companies that offer sort of next day sort of delivery of loans for budding entrepreneurs. So one must be very, very careful in this sort of uncharted territories of trying to seek finance, and to make sure they select the right type of investor or investors, and to do some kind of element of pre-screening and research to make sure they've done their homework, because many people have been stung in sort of taking out loans and they're unable to pay, and there's a huge failure rate for entrepreneurs globally, so one must do their homework.
Thank you. Sonia, Maya, any of those areas ring true for you as being really important? Access to finance, access to training, access to markets, access to research and information?
Yeah, absolutely. I think all four are equally important. I definitely agree with Najat in the sense that finance is the most important. I think it would be really interesting to know why, when you mentioned that women are more reluctant to seek finance, I would really be interested in why that is. On, you know, is it? I'll be interesting to read in more about that.
Sure.
I think for me, at the moment, I would probably add a fifth one, and that would be access to maybe mentoring or guidance. I think if you're an entrepreneur, you might not necessarily have the money to access advisors, lawyers, so having access to women like yourself who've had experiences, and maybe setting up more platforms for female entrepreneurs to access more experienced women so that they can share from each other. That, I think, for me at this stage would really help me, yes.
Yeah, just touching on that note, Sonia, I think it's more a case of reticence to provide funding to female entrepreneurs as opposed to a reluctance. I've never heard of a female that doesn't want to have investments.
Yeah.
It's more from my experience
This may be
a reticence of investing in women that I know happens globally. If you had two entrepreneurs with exactly the same product they want to launch in the market, and they had no idea, and they knew the genders, you'd find that 95% would go with the male. And that is, you know, a correct statistic.
Yeah, I think that may be fair. So the reluctance is basically they're risk averse. So that's the reason.
Okay.
And there's research to back that up. In the UK, it might not be the case in the Middle East, but in the UK we have a lot of research to support the fact that women entrepreneurs, especially those starting up, but even at mid-stage growth, they're very reluctant to seek external finance unless it's from family and friends, and even then they're not keen. Possibly not. The case.
I'm actually one of those people. So I haven't really looked for investing. I still work as a pharmacist, and I'm actually supporting the business through that. And I'm not sure why it is. I think it's just I haven't actually looked into the finance side of it, but I think there is a reluctance there. Just that whole like thing of not shoring if it will actually take off. Well, like it's that whole like risk averse thing. So yeah, I really get that. For me, I think probably the most important one out of the four would probably be access to markets. It's quite difficult to meet pharmacists who are actually head of hospitals in the Gulf, just because of the fact that they're so busy and just trying to make appointments, and just even the healthcare sector, sometimes it's really difficult to actually get access to those people. And I also really like what Sonia mentioned about with the mentorship. I think that is really that would be amazing as well, and I think just not coming from a business background, it would really help.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. So, in wrapping up, I'd just like to give you an opportunity to share what you're most proud of in your business, and what's the next step, and what support would you need in order to achieve that next step. And we're going to be looking out to everybody in the audience, and given that this is a networking opportunity as well, we're going to be asking you if you can support with some of those requests that our panel are making. Is that all right? Yeah? Great. Thank you. So, what are you most proud of? What's next? And what support do you need to achieve what's next?
Okay. So for me, what I'm most proud of is sharing the Palestinian culture through food and educating European, British, and people who traditionally don't know or have a different perception of what Palestine is. I think the fact that we are in a very dynamic environment is wonderful, because the feedback has been amazing. It's in a very high growth sector. Also, the fact that we're buying from Palestinian fair trade farmers wherever we can. We also add £1 to each bill to go to the Galilee Foundation that educates Palestinians from 1948 at university level. More than 60% live below the poverty line, so it's very important for us, and it's a friend of mine who started that foundation. So wherever we can, and the plan and the vision is to create a global brand. Yes. And to hopefully one day be able to have a restaurant at Aboun in Jerusalem and in Palestine. Wonderful. And to bring and to educate Palestinian chefs, front of house, have retail, and so. So that's a very big vision.
That's a beautiful vision.
Starting with a small one-off in Soho. Beautiful. So I have a big vision for the brand, but it starts somewhere. So I'm very proud of it, because it's a mixture of creativity, creating IP, my business skills, my culture and food, and bringing it all into one setup through food.
Lovely. And what's next, and what
yes.
would support you?
Yeah, very much so. So to grow, of course, you need funding. So it's very important for us to have the right partner who believes in the vision and not to want to stifle the vision. So I've had a few potential interested investors who said, great, but can you remove Jerusalem home cooking because it's too controversial, Jerusalem, or take out Palestine and Palestinian. So for me, it's what makes the USP of the brand. There are a lot of Lebanese restaurants, Turkish, Indian, what have you, but not many Palestinians.
It's a lovely concept.
So it's a mixture of funding, what Dr. Najat was saying, and also a mixture of having the right partners with not only funding, but also strategic skill sets to help you grow internationally and eventually franchise.
Sure. So let me just check in the audience who'd be interested in having a conversation with Hanan about the finance side of it. Okay, so noted. And how about strategic growth internationally? Anybody here? Okay, lovely. Thank you. Thank you, Hanan.
Thank
so
you.
You've got some meetings set up.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Who'd like to speak next? What are you most proud of in your business? What's next, and what support are you looking for?
For me, what I'm most proud of is I started an idea that hasn't been done before. So the consultancy and clinical pharmacy, as far as I'm aware, I haven't seen a company actually go out to different parts of the world and just train peer-to-peer pharmacists. So I'm really proud of that idea. And I'm really like proud of actually just like starting that. I also run the Street Children charity, and I also work as well. So I'm just really proud of like juggling everything. What's next for me is, so we've actually bidded for 2 contracts. One of them is with the Ministry of Health in the UAE, and the other one's with the primary healthcare sector in Qatar. So we're actually just waiting to hear back from them. And sorry, what was the next question?
What would support you in achieving
yes.
that next step?
I think just access to hospitals, access to healthcare clinicians, people that would be interested in our idea. I mean, we actually go out there and we take specialist pharmacists from the UK and just to train for 2 to 3 weeks other pharmacists around the world. So yeah, just access to people that would be interested in hospitals that would be interested in that. And the bigger vision for us, so the company is called Global Allied Solutions. And what I would love to do is I'd love to work with allied health professionals, so that would be pharmacists, dietitians, speech therapists, physiotherapists, and actually doing the same model where I'd be taking those specialist professionals out to different parts of the world and actually doing education and training with the specialists in those areas around the world. So yeah, that's my next.
Thank you, Maya. Anybody have access to clinicians or hospitals in the Middle East or contacts you can introduce Maya to? Yeah. The same person. Everyone's going to be queuing up for a one-to-one with you. Thank you. Thank you, Maya.
I can, with regards to what I'm most, I mean, it's a little bit different, obviously, as an experience from everybody else, but I think what I'm most proud of is being part of the group of women who are opening up doors for the younger generation, and I think that that's very important. I think education in Saudi Arabia has still a lot of development to do. So through education, we are changing mindsets. Being part of the Shura Council was very difficult at the very beginning because it was very much something that was not accepted, but just sticking it out and carrying on with the work that we have to do also is something that is very important for younger people, as an example that there's no problem for women being where they are. With regards to the private side, obviously my dream is to just expand and to become the best that we can give as services in the translate, because translation is part of communication. You don't get that right, no dialogue is opening. And the last thing that I find very important in my life right now is to change the mindset of the West on Arab women and on Saudi women specifically, to kill those stereotypes that really, really put us backwards. Looking at women from Saudi Arabia as being oppressed, as being dependent on constantly on a male member of the family, even though there are obviously reasons, and there's a lovely example in Arabic, a proverb in Arabic that says there is no smoke without a fire. Things are changing so rapidly that I think that people need to see what has changed rather than see that change is too slow. So I do a lot of talks about changing the views on Saudi image, and I think that is very important for us too.
Lovely. So is there anybody in the audience who can help Huda get this message out, or get her some speaking slots or articles? Is there anybody in that realm? Possibly not. Oh yes, thank you. Thank you, wonderful. So there's a conversation to have. Great.
Yeah, so that's quite a hard question, what I'm most proud of, actually. I would probably simply say maybe just trying, giving it a try. This isn't my first attempt, so we'll see how this one goes. I think what I'm looking for right now, and what would be the most next logical step, would be maybe finding more guidance and maybe finding a mentor, especially someone who's got a good knowledge of the UK, because I'm now set up here in terms of the financial and the legal aspect of setting up a business in the UK. Maybe someone who also has knowledge about the tax structure and schemes, female or male, it doesn't really matter. Just someone who can contribute and believe in what I do and collaborate, really. So, yeah.
Great. I think the lady sitting next to you and I should have conversations. Is there anybody else who's interested in that conversation? Oh, good. So we shall talk. Najat, anything for you?
Just briefly, I launched Gazelle Advisory Group to be. I left one consulting firm, I resigned, and then I gave myself a week to come up with a unique brand which best matches my own personal algorithm, that matches my own personal branding, basically. So I worked with a designer in Spiral Design, who are London-based, and I wanted, the branding is very, very important to kind of pioneer my way through the Gulf region of where I have expertise. So for me, the branding was very, very important. Then I set about recontacting my old clients from the Gulf region, family offices, sovereign wealth funds. And then once I had that covered, I thought I had to have a conference launch, which we did at Side Business School in Oxford 2 months ago, which was, we had the world's best speakers covering all aspects of investments, really, from governance, legal, everything really. It was really interesting. And that sort of made our mark. So then I thought I have to have a strong team. I'm strong on the kind of Arab family office investor side, so I chose my business partner, who's in the audience, who's very strong and expert on the product side. So together we have our sort of bases covered. And so that's been our blueprint really going forwards. We're event partners today with this conference, and we're going to, in the next Q4 and Q1 of next year, launch a series of closed breakfast summits with a company based in the UAE. I have a member in the audience who's going to work with. So between us, our team of experts, really, we aim to conquer the world. So we hope to have launched successfully and just make ourselves known as kind of the go-to introducers across the Gulf and Europe and North America for bringing Arab investors to the table, basically. And I involve my children, a mother of 2. They come to my conferences to see how Mummy's doing, because they are the next generation and they help me in my conferences. And they don't charge me much per hour, so it's really, really helpful.
Thank you. So as we close, really I just want to thank you all for sharing so openly your challenges and how you overcome them, and just really openly sharing your business with us. I think it takes a lot of courage to do that, right? In front of an audience you've never seen before. So thank you. And I hope you've seen the breadth of talent that women bring to Gulf businesses, and that you found some opportunities to have some good conversations with them over the next 2 days. So thank you. Thank you for taking the time to be with us.
And thank you, Shri.
Thank you, Shri.
Thank you. Thank you.